On one of North Carolina's barrier islands, a uniquely structured societal drama plays out on a daily basis. The island is Shackleford Banks, and this society belongs to the Shackleford horses. Called the Shackleford ponies by many, the herd of over 120 are actually horses, genetically identified as such, and also genetically identified as their own distinct breed. They likely came off Spanish galleons, maritime victims of an area that's become known as the graveyard of the Atlantic. Genetic studies have established the link to the Spanish horses, slightly smaller in stature to the domesticated horses most Americans are familiar with. The Shackleford horses are one of just a few wild horse herds left in North America. They graze within the sight of their human neighbors on the mainland and are under the watchful eyes of the National Park Service, who controls Shackleford Banks as part of the Cape Lookout National Seashore, and the Foundation for Shackleford Horses, a non-profit organization set up to ensure that the herd will live in this wild environment for generations to come. This herd is also protected by an act of Congress, which recognizes their uniqueness and seeks to preserve the herd's wild lifestyle, allowing visitors to see the horses in their natural state. Human contact, socialization, and intervention are strictly limited, and harassing a Shackleford horse is a federal offense, not to mention extremely dangerous. The horses are prone to sudden moves and hard charges, and are particularly volatile when young foals are present. They're best viewed from afar, with binoculars or a telephoto camera lens. But it's an intricate social structure that has all the elements of your favorite afternoon drama. Love and loyalty, pleasure and pain, conflict and resolution. Like any good soap opera, the storylines follow an individual life, and in our brief look at the small patch that makes up this intricate social quilt, we followed Stanley. Stanley's a 14-year-old male and an unlikely leading man. His best days are well behind him, although he's having trouble coming to grips with that reality. But for our purposes, he's a good subject to follow to point out the constant struggle of social dominance and the effects on the individual horse when he's outside of the equine aristocracy of Shackleford Banks.
The harem consists of harem male, sometimes two, more typically one. They're females and their offspring. And normally it's a cohesive family unit, and they stay together for several years. What can happen, what does happen, is that very young males hang out in bachelor herds where they learn how to be a good male, they fight, they find their place in the dominant hierarchy. And as they get older, they become much more attractive to the females. But when they get much older, as Stanley has, they will lose their females and again be back down to bachelor status.
Equine biologists often refer to the harems as being surrounded by a bubble, an invisible, non-uniform line that is determined by the dominant male's comfort level. The more dominant the male, the more freedom he gives to his harem. He allows them a bigger bubble, confident in his ability to ward off any outside threats. For less dominant males, the bubble their harem operates in is smaller, with their lack of confidence showing in a need to keep things more closely monitored and controlled. Today, Stanley has come upon a key meeting place on the island, a freshwater spring known as the Mullet Pond. There are just a few of these springs on the island, and besides the horses' learned habit of digging up small amounts of fresh water just below the surface of the sand, these are the herd's only sources of drinking water. Stanley approaches the pond. It's unclear whether he wants a drink or possibly to steal away a female from the occupying harem, but whatever his intentions, he is not welcome. He's under the watchful eye of Larry, the dominant male in this harem. Natural features like bushes and trees add a little more structure to the usually abstract lines that form the harem's bubble, but there's little doubt when Stanley crosses that line. Stanley loses this battle, but the outcome is not so cut and dry. His opponent is not one of the island's most dominant males, although he's clearly above Stanley in the dominance hierarchy. It's apparent that the male is not powerful enough to drive Stanley totally away. He lingers once again on the outside of that invisible bubble, hoping to fight another battle or to catch a straggling female when they slip away from the harem. But the answer to Stanley's fate comes sooner than expected. A little over an hour after we saw Delphi flee from Stanley, we see her again, emerging over a sand dune and headed down the beach. Stanley is still in hot pursuit. His second female, Anastasia, is nowhere to be seen. She most likely tired of the pursuit and latched on with another harem. Stanley has put all his efforts toward Delphi, and he's about to find out that that was a poor decision. Delphi has noticed Mystic and his single mare, Annie. It's unclear whether Mystic is willing to fight for another female, possibly being content with just one. That question is quickly answered, however, with a charge that covers over 50 yards in just a few split seconds. Stanley fights valiantly, but to no avail. Delphi moves off to be with Mystic, who quickly tries to welcome her to the family. She tells him that she's not quite ready to consummate this new relationship. As for Stanley, he has further injured his leg in the fight, and he limps off to mend his wounds. Just over an hour ago, he had 2 females. Now, he is alone. His prospects for female companionship are not good, but his life is far from over. He'll wander alone, hoping to pick up another stray, but at some point, that inherent drive that sparks his fight for dominance will give way to the inherent realization that his fighting days are over. Stanley will most likely latch on with a bachelor herd, made up of older males like himself and younger males waiting their turn at battle. The Foundation for Shackleford Horses made this video possible as a way to educate people about the wild horse herd on Shackleford Banks. The Foundation is a non-profit organization whose sole purpose is the preservation of this unique breed of horse and a unique part of the coastal Carolinas history. If you want more information about the herd, adoption, or the work of the Foundation and how you can donate, you can visit their website at shacklefordhorses.org.